Welcome back to the show, everybody. Let's look at the numbers while we run the headlines here. Bitcoin, a bunch of yahoos? Well, we're going to get into who said that and why. Kevin O'Leary is in the news. We got this, ladies and gentlemen. CZ, Binance, and Forbes. The future is here, and XRP is in it. You're going to want it. And then also executive order reports. They're due. We're going to talk about it. And flip the switch. LIBOR is out. Does that mean SO4 is in? Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook for exclusive content. It is $1,023 billion. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Coin Paprika bringing the numbers to us right now today and doing it like a boss. Bitcoin right now, 20,300. Ethereum, 1,500 plus. XRP at the number 7 spot, 33 cents, holding their own today. Ladies and gentlemen, I Trust Capital is, in fact, the best crypto IRA on the planet, bar none. I love working with them, but I love being a customer even more. That's the truth. I don't sell things I don't use. And the truth is, I offer this to you guys because I know simple facts. If I'm using it, there's probably a good chance others want to know about it too. And I Trust Capital is certainly one of those items that I love. Being able to invest in crypto. The only thing better than buying crypto is buying crypto tax-free, baby. And they're staking now too. So besides all these good details, there's staking in the crypto IRA as well. Shout out to ProCoin News. We are 616 days, 11 hours, 29 minutes, and 7 seconds right now in the SEC versus Ripple, and we are not done yet by a long shot, as it would look. But this right here, we get started. Guggenheim Investment Group. Now, they were very big on Bitcoin if you've been in this space and remember, and we reported on it here. But they've taken a turn and they've gone from believer to non-believer. Head on a swivel, because the reality is Guggenheimer's mind read says Bitcoin is for yahoos. And if you remember, we covered Davos of January, a gentleman, his name escapes me, from Guggenheim also, who said that he saw Bitcoin at sub 8,000, sub 10,000, sub 8,000 price range. Now that is something that we need to watch out for. What is it they know? What is it they see, right? Well, we'll keep an eye on it. No question about it. Kava Networks. I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if anybody else is growing as fast as Kava is. Kava Cosmos EVM includes 27 protocols now. Increasing constantly is an understatement. I mean, I think I started talking about them and it was 20 or 24 or something like that, maybe 20 or 22 protocols. I mean, forget about it. They're growing so fast. And I believe they're still the leader in total value locked up in smart contracts in the Cosmo ecosystem too. Make sure you give them a like and follow. This right here is Kevin O'Leary, who's going to start laying it down for us here. And I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. Stablecoin legislation done right will be the equivalent of the Telecommunications Act of 1996 for the internet. And that is exactly the act that was put through a Congress that really kicked the door open for the .com era. And I believe the stablecoin legislation done right, can do exactly that. Listen to what Kevin says here.
So stablecoin, the opportunity, which is so interesting, is that a stablecoin backed by the US dollar and treasury bills, for example, no different than a money market account, would overnight, if it was passed and regulated, let's just take USDC by Circle, for example, and it was actually regulated as a payment system, that would create a standard of payment backed by the US dollar globally. And what politician, regardless of what state they're in, doesn't want that? It secures a place for the American dollar beyond just commodities of oil and iron and other payment systems that are built around commodities that are always backed by the US dollar. But that legislation is very simple. It's 5 pages in some of the bills by Haggerty and Toomey that simply says, look, we audit it every 30 days. We make sure that nothing that's supporting the token is a duration longer than 12 months. and we have total transparency in these audits. Now, not every stablecoin is going to survive the transparent audit, but that's okay. There's enough of them that will, or be started that will. And then we let companies compete, just like there's a money market fund at Fidelity and there's one at Schwab and other firms. That's great, but they're basically all the same because they're FDIC insured and they're regulated. Same thing with stablecoins. So I think that may come first. And what really was the stimulus for that, the impetus, was the Luna explosion, which was very diversified. So, it wasn't just shareholders or token holders in the United States. That blew up all around the world in a spectacular supernova. And now it's obviously disfavors algorithmic-based or stable coins. They will not be popular because people have been burned. And that, too, is a good thing. So you have to applaud the sacrifice of the Luna token holders and how their DNA and their ashes have probably created something of greater value for the next version of regulated stablecoins. And again, we applaud them, we thank them, and they too will not invest in stupid managers. And all of this is.
And you get the idea. And I honestly, I think Kevin's right on it there. I really do. It's huge to have that kind of regulatory clarity for stable coins to on and off ramp in this market. I just think it's enormous, and obviously, the libertarian in me doesn't like that side of it too much, because then we realize it is the tentacles of government and agencies beginning to bring and lasso this wild west crypto market space into the framework that has always existed for traditional trading and all of that. So it is coming. It is coming. Right here, I just want to share this very quickly because James K. Filan did, and it is powerful. It is Stuart Alderati from Ripple Legal Team admonishing Gary Gensler. And let's take a look at it right here because it is something here. And the securities treats crypto like the rest of the capital markets. SEC Chairman Gary Gensler appoints the SEC as the cop on the beat for crypto. Mr. Gensler is pushing aside his fellow regulators and front-running President Biden's executive order, which directed agencies to collaborate on establishing clear regulatory frameworks for crypto. We're going to get to the executive order in just a couple seconds. Mr. Gensler writes that whether a car runs on gas or electricity, you still need a seatbelt. No one disputes that, but electric cars don't need gas. And in his analogy, it is gas that the SEC is selling. Mr. Gensler looks to punish anyone who isn't buying it. The SEC shakes down BlockFi, led to a mess. BlockFi ended up on the auction block, and two other companies with similar businesses went belly up. Consumers weren't protected. They were left holding the bag. What we need is regulatory clarity for crypto, not the SEC swinging its billy club to protect its turf at the expense of more than 40 million Americans in the crypto economy. Stuart Alderati, well said. Well said. And thank you to James K. Filan, to Jim for sharing that. Look, most of the responses to the Biden executive order, which was mentioned there by Stuart Alderati, is due right after Labor Day. We're just days away now, ladies and gentlemen. The White House gave 120 days after the release of the executive order for crypto, putting their deadline at September 5th, the day after Labor Day. That's where we're at. And we are waiting to get those reports back. And that, coupled with the potential of a USD tether rug pull, don't take it off the table. Department of Justice is investigating the sister company, was it Ifinex or Bitfinex and Ifinex, that is handling the reserves for USD Tether. And we know the CTO has already made some pretty damning comments about that. So we'll let you know. We're days away from the reports being in and what we find. Right now, we know that this was from June, originally from Ripple, but I want to just show this because of what's coming next. Financial institutions are increasingly optimistic about the use of crypto to improve existing payment processes and flows. And if you follow what Kevin O'Leary said, you really do get the best of that, because if you have stable coins regulated properly, you can offer any kind of crypto to be sold and converted to a merchant in the actual stable coin itself that's regulated and trusted. Right here, CZ, Binance, and Forbes confirmed the future is here. It's Visa, MasterCard, and Binance are suddenly making Bitcoin, Ethereum, yes, and XRP, Solana, Cardano, and Tether payments a reality. That's exactly right. And it does include XRP. I checked the article. But I want to remind people when it comes to payments, and shout out to Kelly for sending this over as a reminder as well. This is pretty much the same language from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that's been echoed in the FDIC from 2020, which is when this originally, I believe, came out here from the CFPB. But it basically states in this that when it comes to cross-border payments and remittances from banks and credit unions alike, SWIFT's GPI, and it says in here, yes, as a highlighted reminder, because we just heard this about payments with MasterCard, virtual currency companies as Ripple offer both the virtual currency XRP can be used to affect settlement of those transfers. So we know that this will more than likely play a major role in the payment side of this network change to this new digital revolution, which I believe the XRP ledger will be highly involved in, and by default, the XRP token. And to go along with that, Mary C. Hall here. Yeah, tell him, Mary. Tell him all about it. Yeah, blockchain CBDC product manager at Ripple, ladies and gentlemen. That's Mary C. Hall. Stop by the Ripple stand at the CBDC conference in Frankfurt, Germany. Learn how Ripple's CBDC private ledger can help central banks mint, manage, transact, and redeem central bank digital currencies. You know, on every level, it seems that Ripple is involved with the XRP ledger, private or otherwise. And we look right here, and shout out to Big Skinny for this one. You have to wonder what's going on here. Now, we know that the LIBOR rate, which is the London Interbank Offer Rate, that is the interest rate that banks agree to lend to one another. It has been the standard, period. The standard. We also know that Sandy O'Connor was one of the main architects of creating the SOFR rate, which is supposedly a more accurate rate, and they are doing away with the LIBOR rate and going to bring in the SOFR rate at some point. Well, we got evidence yesterday from Big Skinny, who sent this over for us to look at, that his credit card company, for Cabela's there, said LIBOR's index is being discontinued. This notice provides summary of changes that are being made to your account terms. These changes will take effect on October 25th, 2025 or 2022. Now, what's interesting about that, ultimately tied into this card, is Capital One and then obviously Cabela's, right? But this is all relative to the LIBOR 8 ending for this particular card contract with his account. Right? So that doesn't mean necessarily that it's October 25th and the world changes. There could be different contractual dates for different companies, but this is happening, right? And you have to wonder, does that mean we're going to a SOFR rate, or have they gone for something else, right? I mean, in fact, if I go back to this, the other piece of paper that he sent through here, why are we changing the way variable rates are calculated? It says here, LIBOR, which has been commonly used to index for many, many years. However, LIBOR is expected to be discontinued by June 2023. So government regulators have asked the lenders to stop using it as soon as possible. It doesn't get any more direct than that, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're talking about. Now, the change from LIBOR to SOFR just tells me we are, in fact, moving to a new system. If you're not using LIBOR anymore, which was obviously a horrible formula at deriving what the interest rate and lending rate should be between banks, because if you haven't heard Sandy O'Connor explain it, it's amazing the way she breaks it down. It is horrible. And SOFR rate supposedly being more accurate, one has to wonder, are we going to see SOFR be the replacement as it's designed and architected to be? So we will see. Obviously, here it is. Simplest way to sum it up. The LIBOR index, we know what it's based off of, right? And it's saying again, October 25th, 2022. So we have 2 dates. June 2023, it's being discontinued on the whole. So the regulators have asked, right? So that looks like a more accurate of June next year. And within the company and their agreement is October of this year. That's what it looks like. So we will keep an eye on it and what that could mean. Again, I find it very interesting that for the first time, LIBOR is going to be discontinued, and board member Sandy O'Connor from Ripple is one of the main architects of getting rid of LIBOR as well. And then that just makes you think of everybody else that's on the board or been an advisor in the history's past or current, like Donald Donahue from the Depository Trust Clearing Corporation that does over $2 quadrillion worth of settlement every year. Or Robert Mitchnick helped design the XRP calculator with Susan Athey, now at BlackRock, head of digital assets. Or Michael S. Barr, now the vice president of the Federal Board of Governors. Or, of course, the 43rd Treasurer of the United States, Rosie Rios. You know, I look at these things and I see a very, very calculated choice of people to be a part of Ripple as a company because of their specialized knowledge that they have. And I find it just as compelling to see that Michael S. Barr is now at the Federal Board of Governors and that Robert Mitchnick is now at BlackRock, right? I find all of those things to be equally as compelling because they look like the perfect moves to make for the incorporation of a new asset class that hasn't been seen since 16 or 1800. You're not going to see something like this happen for another 4 or 5 lifetimes. That's how remarkable I really believe this moment is. Now, before we get out of here, I do want to share with you one technical analyst that's looking at the market, and we know that the US dollar strength and weakness is a good correlation to the crypto charts. It's not an exact measure, but it's certainly an indicator, right? And here we're seeing a chart where XRP-Crypto is showing us that basically the dollar in this position may work its way up to these areas, and it may go all the way up to $1.20, but ultimately we could see this thing hit a wall like it's done here on this hard trend or this hard line here. And if it does, we're going to see it fall back down. And if it does, then crypto should react in a very, very bullish manner. None of these are guarantees. They're just she's showing you what he sees on the charts, right? XRP $25 to $226. I love his perspective here. And again, no guarantees, not financial advice. History rhymes only for Bitcoin and rhymes for Ethereum, and it rhymes for all other cryptos, but it does not rhyme for XRP, wink. History does rhyme, and XRP is going to $25 then $226 by hitting the same Fibonacci targets that it hit back in 2017, 2018. And here's what he's showing us right here, right in that time frame. And actually, right here's the spot on the chart. This fractal that we watched, which happened over the course of about 26 days or so, ladies and gentlemen, which is pretty remarkable if you think about that. And that we could, in fact, see it because it's happened before. And what he's suggesting here is that charts don't always happen exactly the same way, but they certainly rhyme. You know, and that to me is a pretty compelling point. Not financial advice from me, him, or anyone else, but this is where we are on this day. That executive order is coming in just a few days. Tick tock goes the clock. I'll catch all of you on the next one.